Good morning and welcome to another edition of 6 Feet Apart. Today I have my friend Allie with me here. You're such a creative. I love all the times that I get to see you. You actually do a lot of the design work for Some of You Church, and so many of you have enjoyed her posts on Instagram or whatever, but it's you make this church so much better, so appreciate you. But not only are you creative, you're also a dedicated follower of Jesus, and that hasn't come easy. And so I wanted to make sure and get your story to be able to hear how God's faithfulness has been significant to you. You chose a couple of verses from Isaiah 41, which originally it would have been spoken to a people who were displaced from their homes, surrounded by things they couldn't control, and wondering where God was, right? And so I'll read it to you, verse 41, verse 10, chapter 41, that is. It says this: "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand, for I, the Lord, your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not. I am the one who helps you." Allie, tell me the story behind why that verse is so significant.
Well, I feel like before I get into that, we have to kind of look at the verse and just pull out the different promises that we see God saying in that. And when I look at the verse, I see a few things. I see first a command against anxiousness and a promise that the God who chose us and loves us is with us. And that's big. We see God continue on to say, be not dismayed, for I am your God. And he's reminding us that he is the God of all power and glory, and that we can have faith in him, that the Israelites in that moment could have faith in him. And we know and we've seen all through Scripture how God is faithful to his promises and to his words. And in his love for the Israelites and for us, he says promise after promise, and I will after I will after I will in this verse. He says, I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you. When we bring in verse 13, we read something very similar. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you. And we see a similarity and a callback to the promises of verse 10 when... a callback to the promises of verse 10 when we see that he holds our right hand and he makes himself known, stating, I am the one who helps you. And, we see God faithful to his promises, holding our hand and, giving us the strength through him over that fear that we have, over that doubt that we have, and, we can walk with that freedom. It's his righteousness that we're upheld and strengthened by. It's not something of our own accord. And at least for me, how I've seen that play out in my life is throughout my young childhood through early adulthood to present. I've struggled with fear and anxiety and worry that at times had kind of been overwhelming, if that's a word that I could put to it. And when I feel myself sinking into a sea of fearful what ifs, I'm consistently brought back to these verses in Isaiah, being reminded to lean into these promises, because God is mighty, and how much bigger is he than the fear that's in front of me. And it's really a perspective thing, because it brings my fear into perspective. I can fear, but I have no need to fear, because God is faithful. He strengthens, he helps, and he upholds. And I kind of like to relate things to visual pictures. And so when I think of it this way, just as a little kid is learning to cross the street and they're holding their parent's hand, I kind of relate it like that. In those moments where I am feeling fearful, I just kind of okay, I'm holding his hand and he's with me, and it just helps me remember that I am not alone, that he is present in that, and it makes the worry surrounding me feel a whole lot smaller because I'm able to remember that my God is a whole lot bigger.
So I have this picture of you walking across a busy street, right? And like cars. You as this cute little girl, and you got this father figure and just this massive hand because you're so tiny, right? And the cars are so big. But then you look up and you're able to remember who it is that is like holding tight to you and you to that person. And somehow I'm guessing that image, it does something for your mind. It does something for your soul. Can you explain any of that, like what that is like for you?
Yeah, I think just like what you said, if the cars are the fear and they're whirring all around me and I'm just this little girl holding this big hand and I look up, it's like peace that like just floods in because I know that God is looking out for me. He wants what's best for me. He's not going to lead me somewhere where he won't be, if that makes sense. And it's just overwhelming peace. It turns like the overwhelming worry into overwhelming peace when I cling to that promise.
Yeah. It's almost like even in the New Testament, Paul talks about like the prayer of like when you're anxious, cry out.
Yeah.
And the peace of God that you can't explain because the cars are still there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still there. They're still like
all that's
around.
changed, and at least in this scripture, it's like all that's changed is we remember whose hand we're holding and whose hand is holding us.
Exactly.
And that changes everything. And it's, unless you've experienced that, it's really hard to explain other than the fact that that's what God has promised to do to us and demonstrates that by even coming to us through the person of Jesus. For those of you who are watching at home, what we want you to take away from this morning is, regardless of what circumstances are around you, that God truly is faithful to meet you right where you're at. So remember whose hand is holding your hand, and remember to trace your eyes upon him. And if you don't have a relationship with him, you can start one today by reaching out to God and asking him into your life. God bless you guys. Hope you have a good day.